This AI agent answers your calls, books and reschedules appointments, cancels them when needed, transfers to human team members, and handles customer questions, all automatically. Imagine a medical clinic where every missed call still gets booked into your calendar, or a real estate agency where leads can reschedule showings without having to wait for a human to pick up. Even small businesses from gyms to accounting firms can now have this 24/7 phone coverage without hiring additional staff members. And today I'll be showing you exactly how to build all this using ElevenLabs Agents and Cal.com for your scheduling systems. But first, let me show you a quick demo of this AI phone agent working, how everything works, and the systems required to set this up yourself. And trust me when I say I've designed this in a way where we don't have to use many external systems, therefore making it very complex to follow along. This is a very straightforward build, although complex. You'll be able to follow along the way quite easily, so buckle in. Let's jump straight into a demo. So to set the context of this demo, our agent is Rachel, acting as a receptionist on behalf of Massey Enterprises, and we have an internal knowledge base about the services, products, pricing, FAQs that it can draw upon to give the best customer service possible. In conjunction, we're connecting with a Google Calendar to facilitate scheduling, reschedules, and cancellations of bookings. And we also have an external number connected for it to transfer to in the event that I ask to be escalated or speak to a manager or something of this nature. So let's stop talking and dial into Rachel to go ahead and test this out. And this is going to be pretty cool, guys, so buckle in. Dialing in now.
Hello, how can I help you today?
Hey, could you briefly tell me about Massey Enterprises?
Massey Enterprises is a leading provider of voice AI solutions designed for business owners. Founded in 2024 and based in Melbourne, Australia, we specialize in automating phone calls to save time, reduce costs, and enhance customer engagement. Our services cater to various industries, including real estate, healthcare, construction, accounting, and professional services, ensuring that AI-driven voice interactions are as natural and helpful as a real person.
Okay. And how realistic are the voices?
The voices used by Massey Enterprises are highly realistic, thanks to ElevenLabs technology. They feature natural pacing, tone, and intonation, making them sound lifelike and human-like. This ensures that interactions feel genuine and engaging for callers.
Cool. Can I book in an appointment, please?
Of course. Could you please provide your full name to get started with booking your appointment?
My name is Jonas.
Thank you, Jonas. Can I get the best email for you to proceed with the appointment booking?
Yep, it's jonas@talkai.au.
Just to make sure I got that properly, can you spell that out letter by letter?
JONAS@TALKAI.au.
Thank you for confirming that. Now, could you please let me know your preferred date and time for the appointment?
Does tomorrow at 12 p.m. work for you guys?
Unfortunately, the time you requested isn't available. However, we do have openings tomorrow at 1 p.m., 1:15 p.m., and 1:30 p.m. Would any of these times work for you?
Yeah, let's lock in that 1:15 p.m.
Your appointment is confirmed for tomorrow at 1:15 p.m. with a Google Meet link provided. If you need any further assistance, feel free to ask.
Thank you so much. Could you actually just transfer me to your manager? I need to just ask something about a bill I got last month. Okay. So that was transferred, but the number I had it connected to, there's no one on the other end. And as you can see, we had that meeting booked in, email spelled perfectly. I had that email confirmation sent to my email, which you can see here. Cool. Now, in the event that we need to reschedule or cancel this booking, I'm going to go ahead and show you that now. Almost the coolest part of this system. So I'm just going to quickly dial back in and Rachel will answer again. We're going to ask to reschedule this meeting to a different time, and then I'm just going to cancel on that same phone call. So let's go ahead and dial back in.
Hello, how can I help you today?
Hey, I had a meeting booked for tomorrow at 1:15 p.m. I'm not going to be able to make that. Can I reschedule it?
Of course, I can help you with that. Could you please provide the email address you used to book the meeting?
Yeah, it was jonas@talkai.au.
Thank you. Just to make sure I got that correctly, can you spell out the email address letter by letter for me?
jonas@talkai.au.
Thank you for confirming. Let me check your current booking details. Please hold on for a moment. I found your meeting scheduled for tomorrow at 1:15 p.m. Could you please let me know your preferred new date and time for rescheduling?
I'm thinking of doing the following week on a Wednesday at 1:15 p.m. Is that available?
The time slot for Wednesday, September 24th at 1:15 p.m. is available. Would you like me to go ahead and reschedule your meeting to that time?
Yes, please. That'd be great.
Your meeting has been successfully rescheduled to Wednesday, September 24th at 1:15 p.m. Is there anything else I can assist you with today?
Oh, shoot.
Are you still there?
Yeah, something's come up, and I'm actually going to have to cancel that meeting. Can you just cancel the one you just booked, please?
No problem at all. Could you please confirm that you would like to cancel the meeting scheduled for Wednesday, September 24th at 1:15 p.m.?
Yep, go ahead and cancel that.
The meeting scheduled for Wednesday, September 24th at 1:15 p.m. has been successfully canceled. Is there anything else I can assist you with today?
No, you've been very, very helpful. Thank you so much. You have a good day. As you can see there, pretty impressive when it comes to rescheduling and cancellation. So a full-fledged AI receptionist system able to handle initial bookings, reschedulings, as well as cancellations and transfers to team members, as well as precise knowledge retrieval. So that'll be it for the demo. Now we can get into the nuts and bolts of this system here and how we can build this step by step. So buckle in here. This is going to be a bit of a longer one, but we're going to get through it all end to end and how I was able to build this, how you're able to cater this for your own time zone and things like that, and how to implement a transfer function in conjunction with these other functions. Now, quickly before we get into building this, I just want to briefly explain how everything works. So we're using an ElevenLabs agent, which is Rachel, our inbound receptionist. And this inbound receptionist has three primary functions, which would be customer support, escalation, and scheduling functionality. And we went through all of these in the demo, but to break it down a bit further, our customer support role is derived from our docs, so an attached knowledge base, which is able to help Rachel retrieve precise and specific information to be able to handle sort of FAQs. The second functionality that we had tested is this idea of escalation, where we're able to call upon a transfer function specifically named transfer to number, and we've assigned a destination number that we're able to go ahead and route myself, the caller, to. The third, and really the crux of this entire system, is this scheduling functionality, where we have three primary types of scheduling functionality, namely booking, rescheduling, and cancellations. And within this functionality, we have 5 tools that we're using at any given time that we're calling upon to be able to process and facilitate our requests. And that's going to be 1, our Cal availability, 2, our Cal book, 3, Cal get, 4, Cal reschedule, and 5, Cal cancel. And we have a bit of double ups here when it comes to Cal get and Cal availability, because when we reschedule, we need to screen again for availability, and we're using this Cal get function, which returns our unique meeting ID we need to be able to even handle cancellations and rescheduling. And how we get that is by collecting user input or a unique identifier, which we're able to query from to retrieve a meeting, and that would be email. And of course, all these functions are interacting with cal.com as an API to be able to facilitate booking. And the reason we're using cal.com and not Google directly is the robustness of cal.com's API offer a far more easier way to integrate with not just Google as a calendar, but dozens of other calendars. So in this example, I was using Google, but you're able to sync and connect your Microsoft calendar or your Zoho calendar in place of Google. And using cal.com makes this process so much easier. And ElevenLabs really just is a powerful tool here to facilitate this functionality of our inbound receptionist. So fancy little diagram here, but how do you actually go ahead and build this? So let's just jump straight into it. First, we need to go ahead over to ElevenLabs.io, link in the description. If you don't already have an account, go ahead and sign up there, and we can navigate to our agents platform, previously known as conversational AI, now known as agents. And we can go to our agents section, and we'll start from blank, and we can give this a name. Let's call this maybe Amy now, assuming I've already used Rachel. We'll go ahead and create an agent. Cool. Now, the first thing we'll be prompted with here is our agent language. Now, ElevenLabs offers 32 different languages to select from, so plenty of option here if you're outside of an English-speaking country, but for today, we're using English. The second thing is we can add additional languages, so in the event that a user will call up and ask to speak X language, perhaps if you're in the US and they ask to speak Spanish, we can add that here so the agent has the ability to switch between the two. Moving on, our first message. This is what the agent says when it answers the call on an inbound dial. And for now, I'm just going to leave as is, but you can change this to whatever you want. We can also disable interruptions during this first message. This makes it so the user, myself, cannot interrupt what message this first message is, right? Moving on, we can add our system prompt, and this is going to be the brain of how our AI receptionist works. And I could spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours going through the system prompt, and this is largely going to be very different from case to case. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down and do an analysis of the existing prompt I have here and tell you how exactly to modify this, and this will be left in the description below so that you can apply this to your own specific use case. So here we have really a 6 core building block that ElevenLabs suggests when it comes to prompting. And what I mean by that are these headings here. So we have 1, role, our 2, personality, environment, tone, goal, and finally, guardrails and tools. Now, everything in between pertains to how it's meant to achieve its goal. So let's just start at the top and walk through this. So we set the role here, and in the demos example and our agent's example, we'll go ahead and modify this to Amy. We specify who this receptionist is and what it does. And I've got a brief description here, but you could make this as verbose as possible if you want to add a bit more specificity when it comes to exactly what this AI receptionist is doing. But for now, we are Amy, the receptionist agent for Massey Enterprises. We're acting as first point of contact for all inbound callers. Next, we'll move on to the personality, how this LLM inferencing is meant to sound in terms of how our responses should be, are we friendly, approachable, and so forth. So this sort of gives our LLM output a bit of sass, a bit of personality, if you will. And we do that by denoting, specific labels. So here we're friendly, approachable, knowledgeable. We maintain a professional approach while keeping interactions light and helpful. Third, we have our environment. So what is the environment around this role, and what should our agent expect from an inbound caller? So we can say something like, we handle inbound customer calls, and callers may ask about services, request information, schedule new appointments, reschedule or cancel appointments, or request a transfer to sales support team members or something of that nature. We're also going to specify our opening hours, and this helps when it comes to scheduling appointments, and also parsing the current system time. This gives our LLM context on what is the actual date and time. Because most LLM models have knowledge cutoff dates, they don't have real-time checking availability, let alone the time of a specific location. So this is quite important, and I recommend doing this for all prompts, even if it's outside scheduling, just because this just adds more context to your agent to make it a bit more realistic. So system time here is parsed in, and I'm just going to jump back over to ElevenLabs to showcase exactly how to get your own specific time. And we do that by adding a time zone. So you may be in Eastern time, Central time, Mountain time, Pacific time, or anywhere else. I'm in Sydney, Australia, so I've gone ahead and selected Australia, Sydney. And to pass in a variable, we can go ahead and click add variable, and we're using system time, not system time zone, not system time UTC, system time. And this will give date time, and we can pass that in like so. So that's essentially what this means and how you can modify that to your precise time zone. Next is going to be our tone, how our agent should sound. Now, it's sort of hard to prompt a tone into text-based output, remembering a voice agent is composed of 3 building blocks, and that's transcription, LLM inferencing, as well as speech synthesis. So in reality, what our agent says originates as text first and then passed into speech. But it helps to set our tone here. So in this case, we're upbeat, fast-paced, clear, keeping the conversation moving without sounding rushed. Always stay polite and professional. Moving on to our goal. Now, in the context of this video, we have 4 primary goals, well, really 3, and those are first, answering customer questions or directing them to the right information. And we do this by attaching a knowledge base, and to do so, what you can do is head over to knowledge base under agents. We can add a knowledge base in 3 ways: adding a website URL in which that text content on said website URL is scraped. We can add a file, and that could be of these 5 types, or we can manually add our knowledge bases through plain text. And in our demo, I was using this knowledge base, which is a ChatGPT generated knowledge base for a mock voice AI company. And this includes about us, our service offerings, pricing even, FAQs, as well as some contact addresses and contact information here. Your knowledge base may be larger than this, it may be smaller than this, but it's essential to enabling this goal. Secondly, we're going to book new appointments and handle rescheduling or cancellations following scheduling logic. And we'll go into our scheduling logic in just a moment. But the third goal here is to transfer or route calls to the appropriate sales team or department. And we'll add a final goal that's sort of an overarching goal paramount to these three primary goals, is to ensure that our caller feels acknowledged, supported, and heard, and so forth. Now, jumping to our scheduling logic, really the crux of the system, we need to be very precise here on how we're handling appointments. Now, because appointments really are the most complicated thing, well, one of the most complicated things you could equip your agent with, we need to be precise in how to actually undergo these functions. And this is why we need our own designated scheduling section to go ahead and do this. Firstly, to book an appointment, we need to collect required details. And those details are going to be the user's full name, email address, and of course, their preferred time for booking. We're going to specify that we should ask for one detail at a time. We don't want to overload the caller with what's your full name, email, and preferred time for booking. We want to ask one by one, keep it natural, keep it clear and concise. Now for email, where we ask that second question, we need to add some additional email handling logic here. So we should first ask, can I get the best email for you? The caller is going to give an email. We're going to respond with, just to make sure I got that properly, could you spell that out letter by letter? Now, email collection with Voice Agent has been quite a difficult task to achieve. And it's only with new models and new transcription services that we're able to, with 90% accuracy, collect users' email. Now, it's not always going to be correct the first time, and that's why we have this fallback sort of mechanism where we ask them to spell it out. So there's really two instances of collecting the email here, and the reason we do this is to ensure that we do have the right email, because the email is quite important when it comes to retrieving bookings and rescheduling. It doesn't necessarily have to be right for booking the appointment, although our confirmation email won't get sent to them. So really what I'm trying to say here is that collecting emails should be paramount here, and collecting them right should be very paramount here. Once we have the email as well as the preferred time, we're going to use our first function here, which is the cal_availability tool, to actually check available slots within a calendar. Now here I have some time zone conversion logic, and you need to pay attention to this here. Because I'm in Australia, Sydney, and because cal.com accepts only UTC type time zones or timestamps, we need to convert spoken Australia Sydney time. So I'll say tomorrow at 12 p.m. for example, we need to convert that time, which is Australia Sydney time, given the context of this agent, into UTC ISO 8601 time zone. And we do that by natural language prompting here to convert the caller's requested time from time X to time Y. Now, if you're in a different time zone, you're just going to replace this with your time zone. And we're going to give it an example here, and I recommend changing this if you're in a different time zone, where we give it an actual example of that time zone conversion in text here. We're going to specify the input types that are required to check availability, and this sort of pertains to our tool where we need the event type ID, start and end. Next, we are not going to handle or hard code offsets here, so +10, +11 for Australia specific time, keeping in mind daylight savings and things like that. So we're always going to use A time zone when it comes to our specified time zone. So I know sounding a bit complex here, but it's really important to get into the specifics here instead of just directing you to this prompt and saying change it to your own time zone. I want to give an explanation on why a prompt looks like this. Moving on, we're going to say if there's no availability, let's extend the range by 3 hours and retry once. Always relay times back to the caller converted. So when we retrieve available slots in our calendar, these slots are going to be in UTC time. So if we were to just relay those times back to the user, it's going to be completely wrong. So we need to firstly convert Australia Sydney time to UTC, and then we need to convert UTC back to our localized time zone, and that's what we've added here. If the caller requested a specific slot that isn't free, acknowledge that directly. Unfortunately, that isn't available, and then offer them 2-3 alternative slots from the availability results here. And then the caller is going to select a slot, confirm all the details, and when we've selected a slot, we're going to use our second function here, which is the cal_booking tool. Our input here is event type ID, start attendee object with properties name, email, and phone. Although we're not really collecting the phone, this is not mandatory, as well as time zone, and that's hard coded to Australia Sydney in this case. Again, ensuring start as UTC, but time zone is specifically set to Australia Sydney. And then finally, we're going to confirm that booking success and then restate our final date and time. So that is the end-to-end process on booking an appointment. Now, what do we do when we have to cancel an appointment? Well, because our unique identifier would be email in this case, and what I mean by that is we could use name or email to retrieve a booking, but names can vary in there. It's too complex. An email is always going to be, one value in which they use to book in. We just need to ensure that we get that correctly. So we're going to collect our email, and again, following this email handling sequence here to ensure that we have the email correct. And then we're going to use this third tool, cal_get, to locate that booking using our email as a unique identifier. So here we're using input email, date range start, or date range end. We're not really using these, primarily email. If there's multiple results, so a user may have multiple bookings, we need to list those and the caller would choose one. Now we need to confirm intent here to cancel the selected booking. We don't just want to get the event and then cancel. We'll confirm intent and then fire our fourth tool, cal_cancel, to cancel that returned booking and selected booking by the user. Now, finally, how do we handle rescheduling an appointment? Again, we're going to use this concept of collecting a unique identifier, e.g. the email in this case, using our cal_get tool, and this will return current bookings. And the reason why we get these current bookings is this response contains our meeting unique identifier. So it'll be a series of numbers that we're able to parse into our payload to go ahead and reschedule that. So we'll grab the meeting details. We'll ask for their new preferred date time. We'll use the cal_availability tool again here to check for new availability. So this is similar to what we had before. And then again, if it's not free, grab 2-3 alternative slots and relay that to the user. And then using our fifth and final scheduling based tool, cal_reschedule. And the input here is our booking ID with the new start time and our time zone. And these are going to be hard coded values. When we have all that, we'll go ahead and confirm our updated booking and restate those new details back to the caller. So that is our scheduling logic. And all that needs to really be changed here is the logic specific to your localized time zone, guys. So replacing these labels with your time zone, as well as these examples, and as well as, all the labels pertaining to what I have here. Again, This prompt is going to be in the description below. So if you want to modify this or fork off of this, go ahead. Now, moving on to our third function, which is going to be transferring calls. So one, if the caller requests to speak with a sales support team member, confirm the reason. We're going to politely acknowledge and reassure that the call will be connected to the right person. I can transfer you, give it some examples, and then we're going to fire our transfer_to_number tool. Our input here is the number, and again, we're just giving example input. So this sort of helps the agent understand what it needs and construct our payload to execute this function. So don't really worry about this, but we'll go ahead and continue. Clearly state to the caller what is happening, and if it fails or no one's available, apologize and offer to take a message. Now, actually seeing if no one's available is a bit more complex than just doing this. Finding out if someone's available isn't possible unless you have a complex transfer function where we place the callers into a queue and execute like a Twiml function. I'm not going to get into that. It's very complex, but the main thing here is we're transferring them to a destination, and our destination number may have logic off the back of that to handle no calls, no one on the phone or something like that. Our next section is going to be guardrails for tool use specifically, and we're again going to mention how to convert between UTC and our localized time zone. Never speak UTC times to the caller, only announce them converted back, always passing our date as IANA time zone. Only call tools when the caller has provided all necessary input, confirm intent. Always read back the confirmed time and details after booking, canceling, or rescheduling. If a tool returns no results, e.g. no booking found, gracefully offer escalation to a human agent. So in the event that when we're trying to reschedule or cancel an appointment and for some reason the email is just not being collected properly, we don't want to go into this infinite loop of it failing and retrialing. We would rather just go ahead and escalate that to a human team member to answer. Now we're going to move on to our general guardrails and just some basic stuff here. Now, finally, our most important is our tool section, where we indicate to this LLM we have access to external functions for checking the calendar for availability, creating an event, finding an existing event in a calendar, canceling an existing event in the calendar, rescheduling an existing event in the calendar, as well as transferring. So that end-to-end is a complete breakdown of the system prompt that this agent is built on. So a bit of a lengthy one there, but we'll go ahead and copy this. Coming back over to our agents, our new agent, and we're going to paste that in. We'll go ahead and hit save here, and we're good to go. Let's go ahead and specify our time zone here to Australia, Sydney, saving that. The LLM here, I recommend using GPT-4o. It's quite robust in voice AI applications. Temperature, we can have it a bit more deterministic or creative. So this is a sliding scale on how deterministic or strict an LLM adheres to its prompt. The higher you go, the more creative it is, and therefore the more random the outputs are. So we can just leave that as is. Our knowledge base, I'm going to go ahead and add that document that I had before. Let's go ahead and save this. Now the tools, this is really the most important part. So we're going to check end call. We're going to check transfer to number as our internal functions that we're able to call on. So this is going to be our escalation, and we can give it a description. Use this tool when the user needs to be transferred to a department, team member, or manager, something like that. And we're going to add some rules here. We're going to add a human transfer rule, and we can have either a transfer type of conference. So call the number and add the participant to a conference room. After that, remove the agent so that the caller and the transferred participant remain in the room. Or we can use SIP refer, which SIP refer is transferring directly to the DID, destination, applicable only when SIP protocol is used during the conversation. So this would depend on what type of number you've imported into ElevenLabs, which we can go over later. If you're using Twilio, you would use conference. If you're using a SIP trunk from a different number provider, you would use SIP refer. And we can specify the number type, whether that be a phone number or a SIP URI. Here we're going to use a phone number, and you can just go ahead and select your location here. So for me, that's going to be Australia, and I can just put on a random number or something like that. Use this when the caller requests to be transferred to X. So we could add multiple rules, e.g. different departments that we can transfer to here. In this case, we're just going to transfer to one number, but the reason why I put transfer to X is how do you differentiate between when to transfer to this number and when to transfer to another number? So you would say in the condition, use this when the caller requests to be transferred to something like a manager. And if you're adding another one, you would say, use this when the caller requests to be transferred to sales, for example. So you can add multiple numbers that we can transfer to under this function, transfer to number. For now, we'll leave as is, and we'll go ahead and save this. And now we have native tools, end call and transfer to number enabled. Okay, moving on. We need to add our 5 custom tools. So these are going to be pertaining to our availability, our booking, our Cal retrieval stuff, and everything like that. So let's go ahead and add tools. Now, I already have these, but I'm going to walk you through creating them from scratch and how at a deep level this actually works, so you can better debug in the event something doesn't work. So this is going to be the longest part of the video, but trust me when I say it's really important here to have a really deep understanding of what exactly we're doing here, so that in the event that an API changes or something like that, you have the necessary skills to go ahead and debug yourself. Now, these are going to be webhook based tools, not client tools. The differentiation here is we're retrieving or sending data from an external server, not posting events or something of that nature to the client side environment, e.g. on a browser. So this would really work if our AI agent was sitting on a website or something of that nature, which you can do. But long story short, we're going to be using webhook tools. Okay, let's go ahead and build out these tools. Now, to quickly explain each tool I'm going to be build out, let's reference the cal.com documentation here. So there's 5 tools that we're using when it comes to our scheduling functionality, and let's go ahead and find them. So the first we can look at is bookings. So when we find existing bookings within a calendar, we're using this endpoint. So let's check this out. We're using our api.cal.com v2 bookings, and this is a GET request, e.g. we're requesting information, and that's going to be our booking, which includes our booking unique identifier that we can use to reschedule or cancel an appointment. We have 2 required headers when it comes to submitting this GET request, and that's the Cal API version, as well as our API key when it comes to cal.com. So if you don't already, go ahead and create a cal.com account, and you'll natively have 3 event types populated into a new cal.com account. Really, one thing we need to mention here, whether it's you creating a new events that you want or using existing events here, we need to make note of the event type ID. So the event type ID is this number followed by this / here. So that's your event type ID. So keep that in the back of your head. Now, when it comes to actually creating cal.com events, we can set availability here. So for me, it's Monday 9 to 5, but natively this is connected to a Google Calendar. So you can sign up with Google here. But as I suggested, you can connect this to whatever calendar by going into apps and searching for your specific calendar that you want here. But really, sign up for an account in cal.com, take note of this event type ID here. That's what we're going to need later when it comes to building out these tools. So I'm jumping around here a bit, but let's go ahead and bring it back and center this again. So we're building out each one of our 5 tools, and I'm now referencing our cal.com API reference. So I gave an example of how we get bookings, and I'm just mentioning some of the things that we need to actually facilitate this function or this API request ElevenLabs side. And one of the things being authorization. To get your token, you'll need a cal.com account. You'll also need some event types to even be able to book in an appointment and things like that. To get your API key, if you don't know, go ahead to settings under API keys and go ahead and create one. Okay, so we have our 2 required headers, and here we have some available query parameters. So what can we use when it comes to get the right booking? We could use status, so we could filter by status, but that's not going to give us a precise booking. We could use email, which we're going to use because this is unique enough to be able to query the right meeting. We can use name, or we could use a booking UID, but we can't get that. We can use event type ID, a bunch of query parameters that we can filter by to go ahead and retrieve a specific booking for cancellation or rescheduling. So that's the first tool we're going to be making, and that's going to be cal_get. The second one is to actually create a booking. Now, again, we're going to need a header as well as authorization, but our payload to create a booking should include these required values. So the start time in UTC. So remember when I said our start times or our times need to be in UTC specific, and hence why we convert from our localized time zone to UTC. That's exactly why, is because this start time is required to be in UTC. We also need attendee. So on top of the start time, we need attendee. That's why we collect the user's name and email. So you can see here we have an attendee object with name, email, and we also need the time zone as well. So name is required, time zone is required, email is not required, but it sort of is required to send them a confirmation. We could also add their phone number as well in here, but most importantly, the name and time zone is required. That's how booking works, and this is all going to come together when we go ahead and create these tools in ElevenLabs, but it's really important to reference this page here. Next, we'll look at rescheduling an appointment. Again, same headers. Now, the path parameters here that we need are the start time, so that's why we ask when rescheduling what the new time is going to be, and that's pretty much it. So we just need the start time. We can also add a rescheduled reason here as well, and this will help for a bit of insight internally into why a booking was rescheduled. Next is to cancel a booking. Again, headers are going to be the same, and here we need a booking UID or unique identifier to cancel a booking, and that's why we use this get or cal_get function API call to go ahead and grab that unique identifier, because in the response here, we can return that. Now, the final thing or the final tool we're using is all the way down here under slots. Get available slots for an event type. This will return our availability for any specific event type. What we need here is, again, the same headers and query parameters start. This is required, and that again has to be in UTC time zone. We also need the end time in UTC time zone. Scrolling down, we can also get slots for a specific event type. Now, we don't want to retrieve all available slots for all event types. We would have a specific event type that we can retrieve availability for. We can also specify time zone and other things, but the main things here are our start and end time. Okay, so those are the 5 endpoints that we're using with our 5 tools within ElevenLabs. Okay, a bit to digest there, but if you're following along, we're jumping now over to ElevenLabs to go ahead and create these tools, guys. Okay, so let's start off with our cal_get function. So we can go ahead and name this cal_get. Now, I already have one existing, so I'm going to name it CalGet2. The description here, I'm just going to paste in to be a bit faster. Here, the tool retrieves an existing booking based on a user email and or their name. Because this is a GET request, we're going to leave this as is, and the URL is going to be api.cal.com v2 bookings, okay? Now, remember when we mentioned that headers were required here, this is where we add them. So here, we're going to change the type to value, the name Cal API version, and the value is going to be 2024-0813 as the header. The second header we're going to add here is going to be a secret value, and this is going to be authorization, and our token is going to be our bearer token. Now, if you don't have one, go ahead and create a new secret, and you'll name this bearer. You'll go ahead and come back to API keys, copy that, and paste that in to the value, okay? Add the secret, and we'll add it here. So those are our two headers, API version, as well as authorization. Cool. Now we're going to add some query parameters. So when we retrieve bookings, what do we need? We need our email, okay? So we can go ahead and name this identifier as a string attendee email, ensuring capitalization here where required, so capital E on that. And we'll give it a description, the attendee's email address used to create the booking. That's all that we have to create for this tool. So to reiterate, we have a name here, CalGet, description, our URL here, two headers, API version with value this, and our authorization, ensuring capital A on that, capital B on bearer, and again, you can create a new secret by adding that. Query parameters are going to be a string attendee email with our description, the attendee's email address used to create the booking. Nothing else here. Let's go ahead down the bottom here where we can add tool, and you'll see our tools added here. Now, just create it without the _2. But because I have a double up on tools here, that's why I'm doing it. Next, let's add an additional tool, and let's go ahead and do the availability one. So let's add a webhook tool. In fact, I might just go over to our tools bar here to make this a bit easier. So if I refresh this, you'll see our new tool. Let's just add a new one here. And this one is going to be our availability tool. So let's go ahead and create that. So what we'll do is we'll name this cal_availability. And again, I'm just doing tool just for my internal reference here, but just name that cal availability. The description here, we'll do this tool checks if a particular time slot is available in the calendar. Because we're retrieving data here, this is going to be a GET request to the following endpoint, http://api.cal.com v2/slot. So we're interacting with the slots endpoint here. Now the headers are going to be the same, only a bit different. So again, we're going to need our API version, and that's going to be a value. API version, only this version is for the 9th month, not the 8/13, but instead 0904. We'll add an additional header, and this is going to be our authorization header. Authorization, and go ahead and click your bearer token here. Perfect. Now we're going to add query parameters. So let's go ahead and add a parameter. Let's start with our start time. So our identifier is going to be all lowercase start, and we're going to use an LLM prompt here to derive the value here. And we're doing users Australia Sydney time slot start converted to start date time UTC from which to fetch the slots. Okay, so I would change this to your specific time zone. And essentially what we're doing here is we're telling this tool to convert a spoken time slot into UTC to get the value of our start time. Nothing too fancy here. This is required. Make sure you hit required on this one. The next one we can add is the end time, and we can give it a description like this: end date time UTC until which to fetch the slots. Doesn't really matter here because like we sort of have an overarching prompt here to determine how to derive these values. So we'll go ahead and add that. We're going to add a third query parameter, and this is going to be our event type ID. So remember when I told you, make note of the event type ID. That's where we're going to use this, and the description is going to be the ID of the event type that is booked. Return event type ID. So this isn't going to be your event type ID. You're going to have to retrieve that yourself by going to cal.com. Under your particular event type, it could be whatever. And at the URL bar here, these numbers are going to be your event type ID. So go ahead and input that here. So that's going to be it for the availability tool. So let's go ahead and add that tool here. Perfect. The next tool, we'll go ahead and add a new webhook tool, and this can be our booking tool. So again, I'm going to use this _2 just for my internal reference. The description here is going to be this tool books a meeting in the calendar once a time is agreed. Now this method we're going to change to post because we're creating a resource in cal.com. We're not retrieving any details. We're sending some details to our cal.com ecosystem. So we're going to change that to post. And specifically, we're posting data to the same address, only /bookings. Cool. Okay, headers here. As always, we're going to be using the cal.api version with value the same as the get one. So that's going to be a bit different, 0813. Don't ask me why this changes. It's just something cal.com does. I imagine it was when this API endpoints were updated. We'll add a secondary header, a secret, authorization, and our secret is going to be our bearer token. So again, those two headers. Now this is going to be different. We're not going to add query parameters because these are only applicable to GET requests. We're going to add some body parameters here. Okay. So the description here is going to be as follows: add information about the meeting based on the conversation. So our properties are going to be firstly the start time in which to book the event, with a description as follows. Now make sure that required is collected or checked here. The description here is the start time of the booking in ISO format. Cool. We're going to add a secondary property, and this is going to be an object. Okay. Now object, because we're now going to pass in some attendee details that we're able to populate this booking with. So the name, attendee, make this required. Now the description here is going to be as follows: the attendees details, you must collect these fields from the user. Now we have a number of properties under this attendee object, namely their name, email, and time zone. So let's go ahead and add that here by clicking add property. The first one is going to be a string value time zone, making sure we have this spelt like so: time, capital Z, O, and E. And for the description of this, let's go ahead and add this like so. The caller's time zone should be in the format of continent city, like Australia, Sydney. You can replace this with whatever time zone you guys are in. Now we're going to add another property, and this can be our email. Okay, so we can add the user's email here, and we'll add a description as follows, ensuring that this is required, by the way. The email address of the person booking the meeting. Cool, cool, cool. Let's add a third and final property. And as you guessed it, this is going to be the user's name. Name, all lowercase, with a description as follows, guys. The full name of the person booking the meeting. Awesome. Now, there is another thing that we do have to add here, given an update in the API of creating a booking, which is sort of annoying, but we'll have to do it. So you don't want to create another property under this object attendee. We want to create a property outside of this. So go ahead and hit that. And this is going to be an object with identifier location. And we'll add the description as follows: event type location for the meeting. And we're going to add a property here, string value, and this is going to be named type. And instead of using an LLM prompt here, this is going to be a constant value. We don't want this to change or have an LLM tell us the value of this, so we can change it to a constant value. and that's going to be integration. Okay, so this is going to pertain to grabbing a meeting link or producing a meeting link that the user can join. If you don't have this, there's no location of this booking, and therefore we can't generate a meeting link for the user to be able to join said meeting. So data type string, identifier type, required constant value integration here. And we're going to add an additional property, add property, and this identifier is going to be integration, and make sure this is required. This is going to be a constant value as well. And the constant value is Google Meet. If you're using a different calendar, this will vary. Perhaps it'll be Zoom or something like that in terms of online meetings. But for today's video, let's do Google Meet. Now, if you need to know the precise constant value for a different online meeting service, we can go to the API docs, and under create a booking, if we scroll down to location, as you can see, it's a required value. We have a few options here that we can use. And here I believe we're using option 5. So integration. You can see a variety of integrations. So online meeting providers. Today we're using Google Meet, but you would have, if you're using Zoom, this value or anything like that. So it could be WhatsApp video. It could be anything that's here. And these are going to be your precise values that you would input into here. Okay. The final thing we need to add here is going to be a new property, and that's going to be our event type ID. Now change this data type from string to number, and our identifier is going to be this verbatim, event, capital T, capital I here, and the description here is going to be similar to the availability, where we say the ID of the event type that is booked, return event type ID. And remember, guys, to get this at the URL bar here. Cool. That'll be it for our booking tool. Let's go ahead and add this tool. Okay, very cool. I'm just going to reload this to see what we've done. Okay, so we have get, availability, book. We need cancel and reschedule. Okay, let's go ahead and create a new webhook tool, and we'll call this cal_cancel2. Again, just doing this for my internal reference, omit this _2. And let's go ahead and give it a description as follows. This tool cancels an existing meeting in the calendar. Change this method to post, okay? Now the URL here, I want to pay specific attention here. So again, it's going to be our V2 endpoints, /bookings, / dynamic variable inserted in here with the booking UID, okay? / cancel. So here, to actually cancel an event, you need the booking unique identifier to even be able to interact with this endpoint properly. And this is why we have the previous cal get tool to retrieve this, okay? So post request to this URL, okay? Now, again, we're going to use the same headers. So let's add headers here. Again, cal version, and this will be a value, and this will be the 08 value. Add a new header, authorization, so bearer authorization, perfect. Now path parameters. So this looks pretty different to what we had been creating before, but this is how we're meant to obtain this dynamic variable within the URL here. And we're going to leave this as string, and we're going to leave it as an LLM prompt, but the description is going to be the unique identifier of the booking derived from the cal_get tool. So tool name and the response. Okay. Now we need to add some body parameters. So let's add a description here. And this is going to be, for instance, the cancellation reason of the booking. Remember, we don't need this, but for internal reference, we may want a cancellation reason. So the identifier has to be cancellation, capital R reason, and we can name this constant value. We don't have to have it as a required value, and we can just add it as phone call canceled. Okay, that's it. Let's go ahead and add that tool. Perfect. Now the final tool, guys, is going to be our reschedule. So let's just refresh here and see what tools we have already created. So we have our CalGet tool, cancel, availability, book tool. Now we just need our reschedule tool. So let's add a new tool, and we'll call this cal_reschedule. And our description, let's do this tool reschedules an existing meeting in the calendar. Okay, and this is going to be a post request for the following URL. Okay, and again, we're using this booking UID as a dynamic variable in the URL address bar here. Let's go ahead and add our traditional headers. And the first one's going to be our API version value. And let's go ahead and put in the following value, 0813. And let's add a new header here. And this is going to be our authorization header bearer. Let's go ahead and select that. Now the path parameters here is going to be very similar to the one we had just created. So a string LLM prompt. And the description as follows: the unique identifier of the booking derived from the CalGet tool response. Okay. Now we're going to add some body parameters with the following description. Add information about the meeting based on the conversation. So this is going to be similar to how we book an appointment, where we need the start time. So that's going to be our first property, start string, and this is going to be required. And our LLM prompt is going to be the start time of the booking, ISO format, blah, blah, blah. Cool, cool, cool. And that's pretty much going to be it, guys. So the start, we got the booking ID. That's really all we need. So let's go ahead and add that tool. And there we have it. All our tools created. Perfect, 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 perfect. And let's just confirm. Let's refresh. We have all our tools here. We've just created 5 brand new spanking tools. Reschedule, cancel, availability, book, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we have the get one. Now to confirm this works, let's go back into our agent that we had just created. And because I named these tools differently, I'm just going to quickly just copy this. We'll come into our prompt and we'll do Command F _2. That should be it. Let's just confirm we have all instances here. Should be good. Let's go ahead and Command A, Command C, head back over to our system prompt, and we'll replace that with our specific tools that we had just created. Go ahead and hit save on that one. Now, the final thing you'll want to do is you can deploy this on 2 mediums of communication, a phone line or a website. Now, I just want to touch on a website. You can go over to widget and copy this embed code into your website's HTML or JavaScript. So that's how you would add it into a website. And I've got a video previously on how to do this. I recommend checking that out, guys. Now we have our system prompt. We've selected our LLM, but now we have all our tools that we can add to custom tools. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool. Save that one. Now we have our tools, all 7 of them, and we can go to voice. We can select a voice. We have a bunch to choose from.
Wow, you guys, this is just amazing.
Use Mark.
I think this is a really nice way to just talk naturally.
Let's use Mark, but you have dozens and dozens, thousands, actually thousands of voices that you can choose from in ElevenLabs. If you want to use your own clone voice, jump onto the creator plan using the link in the description, and you can have yourself answering these phone calls, or a customer support team member that you love in their voice answering these calls. But for now, let's use Mark. We could use Flash here to be a bit less latent. I'll omit from using that now. A bunch of other settings that we won't get into. Let's go ahead and save. Analysis, I've jumped on and explained in previous videos, so we're not going to touch on that today. But perhaps we want to collect some criteria or have a prompt criteria in which to distinguish between a failed and successful call, or perhaps we want to collect some data along the way, like the user's name, the meeting time, and things like that. We can add some tests here. This is a new feature where you can simulate test calls to ensure that your agent is working properly and have a report of such tests. Security, we won't enable any of this. Advanced, some other things here that we won't touch on also. That is it. Now, to test this, I'm going to port this on an imported SIP number. This is going to be the final thing in terms of creating a full-fledged system. So in the event that you don't want to deploy it on a website, or perhaps you want to have it on both a website and a phone line, we can head over to the side here under phone numbers. Now, I recommend importing a number from Twilio where you can label it. You can go ahead and assign the Twilio number, and all you'll need here is your Twilio account SID. Now, if you're like me, where you're banned from Twilio, don't ask me why. We can import a SIP number using a SIP trunk, and there are a bunch of things here. Maybe I'll do a new video on it, but you can import a number, and when you have imported a number, we can go ahead and assign that to an agent here. So I can just change this to our Amy one, and that's saving now. So that's going to be using our new agent. And that'll be it, guys. First message, system prompt using our new tools that we had created down the bottom. Bang, bang, bang. We've connected those tools as well as our synthetic knowledge base of a mock company, as well as the 5 tools. So, wow, speed run that. That's a long video, but let's go ahead and test. So let's dial in to a new agent, and we'll pull up the calendar for some reference here. So let's dial in, put her on speaker.
Hello, how can I help you today?
Hey mate, I would like to book an appointment, please.
Of course. I'd be happy to help you book an appointment. Could you please provide me with your full name?
Yep, it's Jonas, spelled Jonas.
Thank you, Jonas. Can I get the best email for you to proceed with the booking?
Yeah, sure. It's jonas@talkai.au.
Just to make sure I got that properly, can you spell that out letter by letter?
JONAS@TALKAIAU.
Thank you for confirming that, Jonas. Now, could you please let me know your preferred date and time for the appointment?
Yeah, do you have anything this Thursday at 2:30 p.m.?
Let me check the availability for you. Please hold on for a moment. Unfortunately, the time you requested at 2:30 p.m. isn't available. However, I can offer you alternative slots at 3 p.m., 3:15 p.m., or 3:30 p.m. on Thursday. Which one would you prefer?
Yep, let's do 3:15 p.m.
Great choice. I'll book your appointment for 3:15 p.m. on Thursday. Please hold on for a moment while I confirm the booking. Your appointment is successfully booked for 3:15 p.m. on Thursday. You'll receive a confirmation email with the details. Is there anything else I can assist you with today?
No, that's all. Thanks. So I'm just going to end that call, guys, and then I'm going to recall, reschedule the appointment, have it rescheduled and then cancelled, and then we'll do the transfer call functionality there. So I'm going to call back in right now. Speaker.
Hello, how can I help you today?
Hey, I booked in a meeting for Thursday, the 18th at 3:15 p.m. that I need to reschedule. I'm just not going to be able to make that one.
I can help you with rescheduling your meeting. Could you please provide the email address you used to book the appointment?
Yep, it was jonas@talkai.au.
Thank you. Just to make sure I got that properly, can you spell that out letter by letter?
JONAS@TALKAI.au.
Thank you for confirming. Let me retrieve your current booking details. Please hold on for a moment. I found your meeting scheduled for Thursday, September 18th at 3:15 p.m. Could you please let me know your preferred new date and time for rescheduling?
Yeah, can we do any time the following day, the Friday 19th, after 9:30 a.m.?
Let me check the availability for Friday, September 19th after 9:30 a.m. Please hold on for a moment. We have several available slots on Friday, September 19th. Here are a few options. 10 a.m., 10:15 a.m., or 10:30 a.m. Which one would you prefer?
Let's lock in that 10 a.m.
Your meeting has been successfully rescheduled to Friday, September 19th at 10 a.m. Is there anything else I can assist you with today?
Actually, I've made a mistake. Can we just go ahead and cancel that meeting? I'm just not going to be able to make it.
No problem at all. Let's go ahead and cancel that meeting for you. Please hold on for a moment. The meeting has been successfully canceled. If you need to reschedule or have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Is there anything else I can help you with today?
Yeah, can you actually just transfer me to manager, please? Okay. Again, random number, so I'm not going to go through, but now that works perfectly, guys. As you can see, booking, rescheduling, cancellation, transferring to a human. To verify, let's go ahead to our call history here, and that should be the one we had just had. Let's go ahead and refresh. Okay, that should be it. Okay, there's two actually. So the first one was our booking. Let's check the transcript there. How can I help you today? Hey mate, I'd like to book an appointment. All good. Spell our name. email, spells that out, grabs that correctly, and we'll give it a time. So we said 2:30. It was not available in our calendar, so we did have some new slots here. Let's do 3:15 p.m. Great choice. And now, so you can see the availability there. We had our query, returned the available slots. We chose one. Now it's calling our booking tool. So let's go ahead and check this. So we requested our start time to be 3:30 with time zone and our attendee objects values here, as well as our location with Google Meet and our event type ID. So that was all successful. Perfect. And that's all. So we end that call. And now the second call we'll have a look at is our rescheduling, canceling, and transferring. So we had an appointment. We need to reschedule that one. Give it the email, spell that out. That works fine. Now we're calling our CalGet with our attendee email as our query parameter. And that's going to return our booking, where we can grab this unique identifier that we're now able to go ahead and use with our Cal Reschedule tool. Firstly, checking if it's available, and then with the Cal Reschedule, where we use that unique booking ID with our new start time, and that's successful there. Again, we have this unique ID. And then we've gone ahead and canceled that meeting, where it's called our Cal Cancel. And that's perfect, using that booking ID there to cancel, and including a cancellation reason there as well. So I'm pretty thrilled about that, working perfectly. Now, the final thing, can you transfer me to a manager, please? So the agent did transfer the call there, although it wasn't answered because random number. So, wow, that is perfect. That is perfect. And as you can see, a full-fledged booking system, as well as customer FAQs. We attach that knowledge base, as well as transferring when we need to escalate. And I haven't seen something like this that does, rescheduling, cancellations directly with the calendar API without using a middleware like NAN or Make. So this is a really nifty, fast-paced system that's pretty reliable and only uses two primary software here, with ElevenLabs Agents and cal.com for our calendar side of things. So very nifty there, and I hope you gained a lot of value by me running through very meticulously on why we're creating each tool and what tool or endpoint each tool corresponds with, and the parameters and body payloads that we're including to be aligned with the required ones of cal.com. So thank you for bearing through my long tutorial, but when you've done this, you're going to have a very nifty AI receptionist that you can deploy on a website or a phone line for your service-based industry, where you're handling a lot of inbound calls and need to facilitate booking, customer service, and everything like that. So plenty of application here to whatever service-based business you may have. It's very, very powerful now, automating these inbound phone calls that you would once pay 60, 70,000 Australian dollars to hire for. And, of course, this is going to handle everything when it comes to an inbound or a receptionist's job, but it's going to handle at least the calling aspect of that, and escalate where needed using a transfer function in the event it can't do anything. All right, that is it for today. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and comment below. It helps me out a ton. This video was sponsored by my good friends over at ElevenLabs. If you don't already have an ElevenLabs account, go ahead and use the link in the description below. It's an affiliate link at no extra cost to you, but helps support my content. You'll also get 15 minutes of agents each month. Now, the free plan is good to start with, and I do recommend this if you're just testing the waters, but I recommend upgrading to the creator plan. It's super affordable and unlocks 250 minutes of agent usage, which you need for systems like these. So go ahead and check that out. But that is it for today. Until next time.